The History of Prophets and Kings by al Tabari is one of the most significant and comprehensive universal histories of the early Islamic world. Written by the Persian scholar Abu Ja'far Muhammad ibn Jarir al Tabari, 839 to 923 CE. It serves as a primary source for the history of the Middle East, the rise of Islam, and the early caliphates. The author, al Tabari. Al Tabari was a polymath from al Tabaristan, modern-day Iran. While he is equally famous for his massive commentary on the Quran, Tafsir al-Tabari, his historical work cemented his legacy. He spent most of his life in Baghdad, the intellectual capital of the Abbasid Caliphate, where he had access to a vast array of oral traditions, written documents, and earlier historical works that are now lost. The work is a universal history, meaning it attempts to cover the entirety of human history from the creation of the world up to the author's own time, specifically the year 915 CE/302 AH. Pre-Islamic history. The first section covers the creation, the patriarchs Adam, Noah, Abraham, and the ancient Israelites. Uniquely, al Tabari synchronizes these biblical narratives with the history of ancient Persian kings, Sassanids, integrating Islamic, biblical, and Persian traditions into a single timeline. Islamic history. Once the narrative reaches the life of the Prophet Muhammad, the structure shifts to a chronological format. It details the Prophet's life, the Rashidun caliphs, the Umayyad dynasty, and the Abbasid Caliphate, ending just 8 years before al Tabari's death. Methodology and style. Al Tabari's approach to history was radically different from modern historical methods, characterized by two main features. Isnad, i.e. chain of transmission. As a scholar of hadith, i.e. prophetic traditions, al Tabari applied the same rigorous methodology to history. He did not simply tell a story. He provided the source of the story. Every report is introduced with a chain of names. I was told by A, who heard from B, who heard from C, to establish authenticity. Non-judgmental compilation. Al Tabari rarely offered his own opinion on which version of an event was true. Instead, he would present multiple, often contradictory accounts of the same event side by side. Example: if there were 2 different reports on how a specific battle started, he would include both in their entirety, leaving it to the reader to decide which was accurate based on the reliability of the sources. The famous disclaimer. In his introduction, al Tabari provides a crucial disclaimer that defines his work as a reporter rather than a judge. This passage is essential for understanding his history. The reader should know that with respect to all I have mentioned and made it a condition to set down in this book of ours, I rely upon traditions and reports which I have transmitted and which I attribute to their transmitters. If I mention in this book a report about some men of the past, which the reader or listener finds objectionable or worthy of censure, let him know that this has not come about as a result of our own authority, but strictly from one of those who transmitted it to us, and we have merely reported it as it was reported to us. For al Tabari, history is the unfolding of God's will. The rise and fall of kings and empires are directly linked to their obedience or disobedience to God. The fragility of power. A recurring theme is the inevitability of decline for rulers who become arrogant or unjust. The detailed account of the fall of the Sassanids and the internal strife of the early caliphates serve as moral lessons.